My girlfriend thought it was funny to joke in front of her friends. If my ex texted me right now, I'd leave him instantly. They all laughed. I just smiled. That night, she got a text, but not from her ex. There's a type of joke that isn't really a joke. It's a test. It's a little verbal trial balloon sent up to see what you'll tolerate, how much disrespect you're willing to swallow with a forced smile. I've been on the receiving end of those jokes from my girlfriend Sarah for the better part of a year. But the one she told last Friday night, surrounded by her laughing friends, was the last one I would ever have to endure. My name is Mike. I'm 32. I've always been the kind of person who thinks things through. I like to have a plan, to know what's coming next. Cause and effect, action and reaction, that's how I see the world. Sarah, who is 27, thrives in chaos. She's a tornado of social events, inside jokes, and constant simmering drama. I thought we balanced each other out. I now realize I wasn't a balance. I was the stable ground she stood on while she spun. A big part of her chaos revolved around her ex-boyfriend, a guy named David. Their relationship ended 3 years ago, but in Sarah's world, he was a ghost who was always in the room. His name would come up constantly. David used to love this restaurant. This reminds me of a trip David and I took. It was a never-ending comparison, a subtle but constant reminder that I was living in a space he used to occupy. I'm not a jealous guy, but I am a measured one. The pattern was clear. She wasn't over him. I tried talking to her about it once, calmly and rationally. The result was a week of tears, accusations of being controlling, and a dramatic performance of her calling her friends to cry about how I didn't trust her. I learned my lesson. Direct confrontation was pointless. It would just be twisted into a story where I was the villain. So I did the only thing that made sense. I started making a plan of my own, a contingency plan, just in case. Over the past few months, I quietly began preparing for the inevitable. I installed a small, wide-angle security camera in our living room, pointing towards the front door. I told her it was for security, which wasn't a lie. I also purchased a cheap burner phone and a prepaid SIM card, which I kept in my desk drawer. It was my break glass in case of emergency kit. I hoped I'd never have to use it. Last Friday night, the emergency arrived. We were at a local bar with a group of her friends for a birthday party. Sarah was a few drinks in and holding court, telling some loud, animated story. I was sitting next to her, nursing a beer, just trying to get through the night. That's when her friend, Qley, brought him up. "I saw David the other day," Qley said, a mischievous glint in her eye. "He asked how you were doing, Sarah." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Oh, really? What did he look like? Does he have a new girlfriend?" The conversation went on like that for a few minutes, a detailed forensic analysis of a ghost. I just sat there, silent. Then Sarah, feeling bold and performative in front of her audience, looked around the table, then glanced at me with a smirk. "You know," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "if David texted me right now, this very second, and asked me to leave with him, I'd be out of here so fast. I would leave Mike instantly." Her friends erupted in laughter. It was a sharp, cruel sound. They thought it was hilarious. The ultimate roast. I didn't react. I didn't get angry. I just smiled. A calm, neutral smile. I looked at her and said, "Be careful what you wish for." She just laughed again, basking in the attention. "Oh, please," as if that would ever happen. The conversation moved on, but I had what I needed. The final, unambiguous proof. The breaking point had arrived. It was time to put the plan I had been forming into action. We got home around 1 a.m. Sarah was still giddy from the party. She kicked off her shoes and immediately passed out on the bed. I told her I was going to stay up for a bit. She didn't care. As soon as the bedroom door was closed, I went to my desk. I pulled out the burner phone. I looked up David's number, which I had saved from an old group chat. Using a simple app, I spoofed his number. It was a 5-minute process. Then I composed the text. It had to be simple, believable. "Hey, it's David. I know this is random, but Qley told me she saw you and I can't stop thinking about you. I miss you. Are you up?" I sent the text to Sarah's phone. Then I turned on the living room security camera feed on my second monitor, put on my headphones, and waited. The trap was set. Update 1. I've always been patient. I can wait for the right moment. For the next hour, I put on some music and browsed the internet. The security camera feed a small, silent window in the corner of my screen. At around 2:15 a.m., the bedroom door opened. Sarah crept out, her phone clutched in her hand, its screen a bright beacon in the dark apartment. She was biting her lip, a nervous, excited energy radiating off her. She didn't even look in my direction. She thought I was lost in my own world, headphones on, oblivious. The camera, positioned perfectly, captured the entire scene. She stood by the front door, furiously typing on her phone. A few minutes later, a giddy, triumphant smile spread across her face. She looked at her phone one more time, then turned and crept back into the bedroom. 5 minutes later, she re-emerged. She had changed out of her pajamas and into jeans and a sweater. She was carrying her main purse and a small duffel bag she always used for weekend trips. She moved with a quiet urgency, her eyes darting towards me at my desk. I didn't move. I just kept my eyes on my screen. She slipped on her shoes, took one last look around the apartment that was no longer hers, and quietly let herself out the front door. As soon as the door clicked shut, I took off my headphones. The show was over. I saved the security camera footage, a crystal clear, 2-minute video of my girlfriend receiving a text, getting dressed, packing a bag, and sneaking out of our apartment in the middle of the night to a secure, encrypted drive. Then, the cleanup phase began. First, I double-bolted the door from the inside. Then, I went to work on her digital life. I logged her out of every streaming service. I changed the password to our shared Wi-Fi. We had a joint credit card, one I had added her to so we could split shared expenses. I logged into the bank's website, paid off the small balance, and removed her as an authorized user. Then I started on her physical possessions. I didn't want a long, drawn-out process of her coming back multiple times. I wanted a clean break. I went to our storage closet and pulled out the stack of moving boxes I had bought a month ago as part of my contingency plan. For the next 3 hours, I packed her life away. Every piece of clothing, every shoe, every book, every framed photo. I was a machine, devoid of emotion, just executing a task. By the time the sun started to rise, our apartment, my apartment, was completely scrubbed of her presence. A neat stack of 27 labeled boxes stood by the front door. At 6 a.m., I took the burner phone, snapped it in half, and threw it in an electronics recycling bin on my way to the gym. The operation was complete. The first contact came at 7:32 a.m. It was a text. "Where are you? I'm at the coffee shop we used to go to. I've been waiting for an hour." It was from David. The real David. Sarah had clearly texted him from her own phone after leaving, telling him where to meet her. The poor guy must have woken up to a very confusing message. I screenshotted it and saved it. The real fireworks started around 9 a.m. She must have finally given up on her ghost lover and come home. My phone started ringing, and ringing and ringing. I ignored it. Then came the texts. A storm of confusion, then rage, then panic. "Mike, my key isn't working. What's going on? Answer your phone. This isn't funny. I can hear you inside. Open the door. I swear to God, if you don't let me in, I'm calling the cops." I finally picked up. I didn't say anything. "Mike," she shrieked. "What is happening? Let me in." "No," I said calmly. "What do you mean, no? It's my home." "No, it's not." I corrected her. "It's my apartment. You're not on the lease, and as of about 7 hours ago, you don't live here anymore." There was a stunned silence on the other end. What are you talking about?" "I saw you," I said, my voice cold as ice. "I saw you get a text. I saw you pack a bag. I saw you sneak out in the middle of the night to go meet your ex-boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend you swore was just a friend, the same ex-boyfriend you joked about leaving me for just a few hours earlier." "You were awake?" she whispered, the panic in her voice palpable. "I was," I lied. "I saw it all. You made your choice, Sarah. You wanted to leave me for him instantly, so you did. The only problem is, he apparently didn't want you back." "That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem." "It was a mistake," she cried. "I don't know what I was thinking. Please let me in. We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Your belongings are packed. They are in 27 boxes by the front door. I have hired a moving service to pick them up at noon and deliver them to your parents' house. I suggest you go there and wait for them. Goodbye, Sarah." I hung up before she could respond and blocked her number. I looked around my apartment. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It was mine. Update 2. I knew there would be fallout. When you make a big move, there are always ripples. The storm of attempted manipulation and a full-scale information war was predictable. The first phase was the delivery of her things. The movers I hired were professionals. They arrived at noon sharp, loaded up the 27 boxes, and drove them to her parents' suburban home. I got a text from the lead mover at 1:15 p.m. Delivery complete. Homeowner signed for it. She was not happy. I'm sure she wasn't. The second phase was the smear campaign. It was launched with military precision. By that evening, my social media was a war zone. Her friends, led by Qley, unleashed a barrage of posts. They didn't name me, of course. They were too clever for that. Instead, they spoke of their brave, beautiful friend who had just escaped a toxic, controlling relationship. They talked about psychological manipulation and tech-savvy abusers who create elaborate traps. The narrative was that I, the jealous and insecure boyfriend, had set her up over a harmless joke, then cruelly threw her out, proving I was the monster she always feared I was. It was a brilliant piece of revisionist history. And for a few days, it worked. I got angry messages from mutual acquaintances. I was unfriended by people who had only heard her side of the story. They were trying to isolate me, to make me the villain in a story where she was the only victim. But they had made a critical error. They assumed I would fight them on their battlefield of emotional, dramatic social media posts. I don't fight with drama. I fight with facts. I waited until their campaign reached its peak. On Wednesday, Sarah herself posted a long, tearful survivor story on her Instagram. She talked about the suffocating pressure of being with someone who didn't trust her, and the terrifying night she was unceremoniously discarded over a misunderstanding. It got hundreds of likes and sympathetic comments. That was the signal I had been waiting for. I went back to my evidence file. I had the screenshot of the real David's confused text message. And of course, I had the high-definition, undeniable video of her actions. I created a simple private web page on a personal server. It was protected by a password. The page had a clean, simple layout. At the top it said, "The truth about last Friday night." Below that, I embedded the 2-minute security camera video. Under the video, I posted the screenshot of the real David's text message. And at the bottom, I wrote a single paragraph. This is the reality of what happened. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a choice. A choice to act on a long-held desire, proven by the immediate and joyful reaction to a text message believed to be from an ex-boyfriend. This was a choice to pack a bag and sneak out in the middle of the night to meet another man. The subsequent story of abuse and control is a fabrication designed to hide the shame of a failed affair. I will not engage in a public debate. The truth speaks for itself. I then sent a single, simple email to 3 people: Sarah's mother, Sarah's father, and Qley, her best friend and chief propagandist. The subject line was, "The truth." The body of the email contained only the link to the private web page and the password. The effect was instantaneous and absolute. It was like pouring a bucket of cold, hard reality onto their bonfire of lies. Final update. It's been 5 months. The silence from Sarah and her friends has been total. The private webpage I created acted as a kill switch for their entire narrative. There is no arguing with video evidence of your own gleeful betrayal. I found out through the grapevine what happened after I sent that email. Her parents, who had been bankrolling her victim tour and fueling her outrage, were horrified and deeply humiliated. They saw the video of their daughter, giddy with excitement, packing a bag to cheat on the man who had supported her. They saw the proof that her entire story was a lie. The financial support was reportedly cut back dramatically, and she was told in no uncertain terms to grow up and deal with the consequences of her own actions. Qley, the loyal best friend, went completely silent. The online cheerleading stopped. The crusade for her abused friend ended. It's hard to be a social justice warrior when you have concrete proof that the person you're defending is a liar. The most satisfying piece of fallout came from David, the ex. Annoyed at being the ghost in our relationship and now being dragged into the public drama, he posted a single, clarifying statement on his own Facebook page. To be crystal clear, I have not been in contact with Sarah for over a year. I am in a happy, committed relationship. I did not text her, and I have no interest in her life. Please respect my privacy. He effectively confirmed his part of the story and repudiated her entirely. It was a final, public nail in the coffin of her victim narrative. Sarah's life, from what I hear, has unraveled. Without my financial support, and with her parents reining her in, she had to get a second job. She's working constantly, living in a small apartment with 2 roommates. Her glamorous, drama-filled life has been replaced by the quiet, grinding reality of adult responsibility. She got exactly what she deserved, a life based on her own choices, not one subsidized by a man she didn't respect. As for me, I'm good. More than good. The apartment feels like a sanctuary now, a place of peace and order. I've thrown myself into my work and have been doing really well. I'm dating again, casually. I met someone new, a teacher. Our conversations are about real things, about building a future, not just maintaining appearances. It's the most refreshing relationship I've ever had. The ultimate revenge wasn't the text message trap. It wasn't packing her things or sending the video. The ultimate revenge was refusing to play her game. She wanted a chaotic, emotional, dramatic fight. She wanted to be the victim in a grand, tragic story. I gave her none of it. I gave her quiet, inescapable truth. I presented her with the evidence of her own decisions and let it speak for itself. She tried to drag me down into the mud of her own making, but I refused to go. I stayed on solid ground and I watched her sink. She joked about leaving me instantly. In the end, I was the one who left her, instantly and irrevocably, in the past. And my future is a system that is finally running without any errors.